In the name of His only begotten Son, I'd like to give all honor, glory, thanks, and praise to the Most High Power, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. In this video, I would like to give a scriptural perspective on why I believe um, so-called minorities, our people, like to identify themselves by the titles of, I guess, locations or land masses versus considering their nationality. Deuteronomy chapter 9, verse 4. Speak not thou in thine heart, after that the Lord thy God hath cast them out from before thee, saying, For my righteousness the Lord hath brought me in to possess this land. But for the wickedness of these nations the Lord doth drive them out from before thee. Not for thy righteousness, or for the uprightness of thine heart, doest thou go to possess their land, but for the wickedness of these nations the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee, and that he may perform the word which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Verse 6. Understand therefore that the Lord thy God giveth thee not this good land to possess it for thy righteousness, for thou art a stiff-necked people. Verse 7. Remember and forget not how thou provokest the Lord thy God to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that thou didst depart out of the land of Egypt until ye came unto this place. Ye have been rebellious against the Lord. Deuteronomy 9 and 23. Likewise, when the Lord sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, Go up and possess the land which I have given you, then you rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God, and you believed him not, nor hearkened to his voice. Verse 24. You have been rebellious against the Lord from the day that I knew you. Ezekiel chapter 12, verse 1. The word of the Lord also came unto me, saying, verse 2, Son of man, thou dwellest in the midst of a rebellious house, which have eyes to see and see not. They have ears to hear and hear not, for they are a rebellious house. Ezekiel chapter 3, verse, let's see. I could start at I could start at I'll start at I'll start at verse 1. I'll start at Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 1. Moreover, he said unto me, Son of man, eat that thou findest, eat this roll, and go speak unto the house of Israel. So I opened my mouth, and he caused me to eat that roll. And what roll is this? This is the commandments. This is the law. This is the word of the Most High. This is verse 3. And he said unto me, Son of man, cause thy belly to eat, and fill thy bowels with this roll that I give thee. Then did I eat it, and it was in my mouth as honey for sweetness. And he said unto me, Son of man, go, get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them. So you understand that this roll is the words of the Most High, and to a righteous soul, it is words of sweetness. And you want it all throughout you, all within you want to digest it, just like you do a good meal. This is, many precepts that show you that the word, we could go to Deuteronomy, we could go to Matthew 4 and 4, or Luke 4th chapter. The word of the Most High is food. That is the bread of life. That's why the Messiah said to you that he was the bread of life. That's why he also said in John, eat of him, eat of his flesh, and drink of his blood. Okay, but the people were offended by this because they did not have the spiritual understanding. But to a righteous soul, Eating the word of the Most High is very fulfilling, and it is good for food. It is good to eat and digest, meaning you understand it, you take it all in, and then you do it. So here Ezekiel has been given the word, okay? And we're going to go to verse 4. And he said unto me, Son of man, go, get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them. See, and this is what people don't understand, that this is not your words. When you're speaking the scriptures, you're speaking his words. This is why it's important to understand when you read in Peter that this is not of any private interpretation. You have to be blessed with the Holy Spirit and have to want the understanding and wisdom to understand what the Most High is saying. These are his words, okay? Not any particular man's words. It is the words of the Most High. The word of the Most High was the Messiah when he came in the flesh. But let's continue on in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 3 and 5. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of an hard language, but to the house of Israel. Not to many people of a strange speech and of an hard language, whose words thou canst not understand. Surely, had I sent thee to them, they would have hearkened unto thee. And a perfect example of that is Jonah. When the Most High sent Jonah to Nineveh, and Jonah tried to escape and he wanted to get away because it was heathens and it was a wicked city. But even they hearkened unto the word of the Most High. So let's continue on. Verse 7. But the house of Israel will not hearken unto thee, for they will not hearken unto me. For all the house of Israel are impudent and hard hearted. Verse 8. Behold, I have made thy face strong against their faces, and thy forehead strong against their foreheads. 9. As an adamant, harder than flint have I made thy forehead. Fear them not, neither be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house. Understand that do you understand the comparison that the Most High is making to the heads of the people of Israel? Their head is so hard and their neck is so stiff. I mean, they do not want to listen, and they don't listen, and they haven't to this very day listened. And why? Well, the whole point of me going to these scriptures is to discuss some of these so-called whatever you want to call yourself. You could say pro-black, you could say pan-African, you could say, but we're going to break all of that down and we're going to discuss it, because this is the reason why people choose to be in and give themselves these titles and say that they're African and this, that, and the third, because our people, they like to be conscious and try to because a lot of our people are not conscious. A lot of our people have fallen into this delusion so deep that they are, you could call yourself American, you can be whatever you want to call yourself other than an Israelite. And that also is part of a conspiracy of nations, which you can read in Psalms 83, how they've conspired to cut the name of Israel out of remembrance. But our people also love to have it so. They don't mind living in the Most High also said that he sent a strong delusion because they want to believe a lie. Just as I have gone into in Matthew, as Matthew states, it's because they have hardened their hearts. They want to believe this. This is about what the Israelites want to believe. So why am I saying this? Because this is part of what I truly and as clearly as the scriptures are stating, why some of our people, they want to call themselves Egyptologists, they want to call themselves Pan-Africanists, they can identify with all of it because, like I said, a lot of people are not conscious and they choose to ignore a lot of the injustices that our people are suffering, which also is because of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Okay, it's because of Leviticus, the 20 6th chapter. It's because uh, the book of Jeremiah, the book of all the prophets. The entire book is talking about these Israelites and their rebellion against their God. Continuously, they continue to rebel against their God. So they put on these titles because they don't want to be, they realize the ills of this society that we're in. They realize the injustices. They are conscious of these things. But what they don't want to do is they don't want to be disciplined and keep the commandments, because when you're calling yourself a African, or a Kemetic, um, of a person of Kemet or whatever, when people don't even realize that Kim, when you really go into the history of that word, that term Kim comes from Ham. In the Hebrew, Ham is pronounced Ham, and that's where it comes from. The African Ham is the so-called uh, people that you want to term African, but let's consider that you can't just say you're African when the continent of Africa has many different nations in it. Just like America and just like every other continent, they're a place. They contain many different ethnicities of people. Okay, you could call yourself a Jamaican, but you have many different ethnicities living on the island that you call Jamaica. Okay, you could call yourself an African, but you have the same ethnicities there. When you consider South Africa, how the so-called white man is there, if they came here, would they call themselves an African American, and would they still look like you? So whoever has ears to hear can see clearly and hear exactly what I'm saying. Okay, it is a continent. That is not your ethnicity. It's the same as calling yourself an American. It's the same thing. It's a continent. It's a dwelling place. It's where you live, or the people that have conquered it or are ruling it at that time have called it that. And um, I don't particularly follow any organization, but I will give credit where it has to be given where it's due. There, there is the GOCC Church gave a breakdown about how that continent became termed Africa. Okay, it is, you can find that in the Josephus. It isn't even from the children of Ham, which people claim to be following. It's not from those people. It's actually of Shemitic origin, and you can look that up and find that. Like I said, I don't promote or condone. I don't belong to any particular group, and I have my reasons for that. But wisdom is justified of her children. So the point that I'm making is that you know people want to give themselves these titles, and they don't look into a what they're calling themselves, b they're miseducated on what they're calling themselves and why they're calling themselves that. And but my point about, if you want to say Kemet, okay, once again, Kim, that is Hebrew in origin. I mean, that is a biblical origin. I mean, but people that are calling themselves that shun the Bible. Now, let's be realistic. It doesn't take that much amount of true study to realize that the people in the scriptures are people of color. It's even though it discusses other nations, because there are other nations on the planet and we're all interacting with each other, because that's how what it is. But it's up to and for and about the Israelites, and it does not take, if you are looking and seeking for true information and knowledge, it doesn't take a lot to realize that the scriptures are a book of people of color. It's very evident that when you get to discussing the laws and statutes and commandments of the scripture, it goes against what you would call European. And that's another thing. You're saying that people are European, but Europe is another continent full of different ethnicities. So you can't just say that either. You know, the reason why I went to Deuteronomy and Ezekiel to bring out those scriptures as far as rebellion, and I also would like to go to Matthew and Isaiah to talk about the the really it's the hypocrisy and the rebellion of our people because they don't want to follow the commandments. You can call yourself conscious, African, pro black, whatever, because you can point out the injustices, but you don't want to follow the scriptures. You see all these different um religions. You could say something about religion, but here's and this is something else that I also want to talk about. If you hear anybody saying anything about a Hebrew Israelite in context, in the same sentence, in comparison to, in reference to religion, then you're listening to an unlearned person. Either they're unlearned or they do not have the understanding or they have an agenda. One of those things. Because Hebrew Israelite is not a doctrine of men. It's not a religion, it is a nationality, it is a race. The Hebrew Israelites are a race of people. It's not a religion. It isn't. Christianity, as you know it today, is a doctrine. It was infiltrated by, I guess you the so-called white men, the Edomites, you could whatever you want to call them, biblically that's who they are, okay? And they when they conquered us, when we were taken here in slavery, a lot of people were trying to say, oh, there's no proof of that, but it's plenty of proof of it. There's plenty of documentation of the slaves. There's plenty of artifacts and chains and all kinds of things to show that slavery, even your mind state, even the the destruction of so-called black people is clear evidence that slavery took place. I mean, let's be for real. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's clear evidence. All right. And but the point that I'm saying is if you hear anyone saying something about a Hebrew Israelite in reference to religion, they're unlearned because it isn't a religion. It's not a doctrine. It's not something that you choose to do. It's not like Judaism. It's not like Christianity. It's not like, no. A Hebrew Israelite is a person, it's a nationality, and it is the people that fit the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter.